Hello and welcome to Tuesday Virtual Happy Hour. I'm Greg Avol, your host, founder of Untappd. I'm super excited to talk to you today about some amazing guests that we're going to have on our show. Just want to remind you that we're also celebrating our Untappd 10th anniversary all of the month of October. October 22nd is the actual date. And we're actually having a live party on the 24th to celebrate from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. We're having a special badge, as you probably know as an Untappd user. And we're asking you to design the badge in a contest for us. So head over to untappd.com/10/contest and enter your submission to be reviewed by our team to see if your badge makes the cut. We're super excited to see what you will come up with our Untappd badge contest for the 10th anniversary. So now that we have that out of the way, I want to bring on my two guests for the show today, both Brad and Jonny. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Awesome. If you don't know, Brad and Jonny are from the Craft Beer channel, a multi-award-winning YouTube craft channel dedicated to great beer, food, and travel. And we'll get into all that in a little bit. But first, like every other virtual happy hour, the beer is the almighty thing that we must do, and we must drink together, as we all say. So, Brad, I'll start with you. What's in your glass for this evening's virtual happy hour?
Tonight, Greg, I will be drinking Beak Brewery Parade IPA. I don't know if there are very many English people watching this, but I just did a little blind date reference there.
It was right over my head.
From the 90s. Anyway, that's a very old reference. This is a very new brewery. They're from Sussex, which is in the sort of south of England. They've got a lot of hype going on, haven't they, Jonny?
Yeah.
You yourself have actually had a bit of an experience regarding Beak. I don't know if we want to get into that yet, but should I just crack it and have a chat about it, or how does this work? Do we go on to Jonny now?
Let's go to Jonny now and see what you're drinking, and then we'll ultimately go to myself, and we'll have that story together. How about that?
Sounds great.
Yeah, so I'm drinking a beer from my discovery of lockdown, which was Cheshire Brewhouse. So they're up in Northern England, run by a serious character, a guy called Shane Swindles, who, if you go to his social accounts, he will literally sing his new releases at you. And he specializes in making sort of heritage recipes, so recipes he's dug out of old archives around the UK. So this is his 1889 heritage porter, so first brewed 150 years ago nearly, and using malt that was sort of the Maris Otter of the time, a really popular malt, to make a really rich biscuity porter, which I'm very excited to try.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, I'll finish this off on my side here. I'm drinking a Bases Loaded, which is a Kolsch beer from Jagged Mountain. We just had this guest, Alyssa Thorpe, on last week, talk about her beer in Colorado. So I'm super excited to try some of this. Kolsch is one of those lost styles, in my opinion, that are great on a summer day. And it's not really summer anymore, but I'll take it anyway. So this is what I'm drinking as well. If you're out there watching us right now, you're having a beer, make sure you check that beer on Untappd and tag your venue at Untappd at home. I'm going to do the same, as well as the guys around here will be doing that as well. I've typically poured beer poorly. I'm going to try my best to not do this very bad. I think I'm doing an okay job here. All right. There we go. Look at that. I did mess it up this time. Fantastic. Well, cheers to everybody out there. Thank you so much for watching our virtual happy hour, and enjoy your beverage.
Cheers.
All right. Well, I guess we have to go into the story here that Brad just talked about, because I'm interested to hear what kind of escapades that you were into at this particular brewery. So let's hear about it.
Are you talking about my cycling, Bradley?
Yeah, pretty well. I don't know of any other escapades that you've been up.
I went to university with the guy who founded Beak, so I don't know what you know about my university career. But no, I cycled down there 2 weeks ago. On what turned out to be an incredibly warm and incredibly hilly day. I picked out a nice 65k route, which was I thought pretty gentle, but it was brutal. And we arrived about an hour after our booking was supposed to start. Next 3 pints and downed a pizza, and then left without even saying hello to the guy who I hadn't seen for years. But his beer was tasting fantastic, and Beak, I think, are guys to watch in the UK. Mostly sort of hazy stuff, but actually as a home brewer, Dan Founder was making a lot of mixed firm stuff. So that's what I'm waiting for from Beak.
I love the glasses, by the way. That's pretty awesome. You guys have those branded.
Yeah,
very cool.
We're running out, so we're gonna have to get some more.
There you go.
More made.
Well, let's go into a little bit about what you guys are doing and what you guys are doing on your channel here, a craft beer channel. It sounds like it's something related to craft beer, but I'll let you guys describe what exactly you guys have on your channel on YouTube and a little bit about how that got started.
Yeah, so essentially we see it as sort of a mini documentary channel all about great craft beer, great food, and great travel, and where those three sort of bubbles sort of interconnect. So we do some sort of more vloggery stuff that we call sofa sessions, where we sit down and nerd out over beer style or a particular brewery. We have a series called Hype Train, where we try the world's rarest, most exciting beers and see if they're worth the hype. But we also make like full length documentaries. So was it last year?
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, it feels about 10 years ago now, but last year we made our first feature-length documentary, so an hour-and-a-half documentary all about the New England brewing scene. So we went to the Alchemist, Hill Farmstead, went to Allagash, and then also like covered lager breweries and stuff like that. So we do a lot of travel. And that started, we met Jamie Oliver, the chef who hopefully you know over in the States. We met working for him, and just we were huge beer geeks, and when Jamie started his food tube channel, we decided to do a beer one, and it kind of got out of control and has become a career somehow along the lines.
Now, did you work with him or for him, or what's the story around the Jamie Oliver thing?
I'll let Brad get a word in edgeways.
Yeah, I mean, my sort of relationship with Jamie is I went to art school in London. So, you know, quite a kind of hippie sort of guy, I guess. Bit alternative. And my first job out of art school, I had two job offers. One was from MTV to go and make graphics for TV shows. And the other one was to go and work with Jamie Oliver and like build his brand, make books that, you know, do TV graphics, all this kind of stuff. And I was about 21 years old. And now it's my 38th birthday next week. So I've known him for pretty much half my life. And I've worked with him for a long time, a couple of times. Great guy. And, you know, working with him, I got to meet loads of different creative people from all sorts of spheres, whether they be photographers or illustrators or people like Jonny, journalists. And, you know, you kind of get to know people when you go for a drink in the pub or, you know, several drinks in the pub, several nights a week, which is where me and Jonny kind of struck up our kind of friendship. And it all kind of spiraled from there. I kind of, I was helping launch Jamie's YouTube channel and branding that up years ago. And obviously that was food based, but I saw he was going to do a cocktail based one. And I thought, why don't we do a beer one before he does it? So that's what we did.
Yeah, we've been watching the YouTube channels that covered beer up until that point. And, you know, I have a lot of time for all the, you know, the classic beer reviewers on YouTube, like Greg, Simon at Real Ale Guide, Hopzine, Darwin's beer reviews, but none of them are really getting out there. So when we started, we were like, we're not going to do reviews in our bedrooms, kitchens. We're going to interview brewers. We're going to take a more kind of documentary approach, and that really works. So hopefully in about a month's time, we'll celebrate 100,000 subscribers on YouTube.
That's awesome.
At which point we get a little silver play button. Well, no, not silver. That's probably stretching it. a little play button, and can, I don't know, tell our grandkids that one we had a 100,000 strong YouTube following. They won't know what YouTube is by that point, probably.
Exactly, right. Watching in their glasses or in their brains at that point.
Yeah. So. Like, what? You have to watch it on screen? You don't just press a button on your temple? Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Well, if you're watching out there and you're running a slate, we're talking about Jonny Garrett and Brad Evans, who are the founders of the Craft Beer Channel. It's a YouTube channel that is dedicated to great beer, food, and travel. If you have a question for Jonny or Brad, they probably interview a lot of people on their show and put their guests on the hot seat. But now is your chance. Put them on the hot seat here and ask them some great questions and make them squirm, because that's what we want to do. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's television on the internet, or whatever you want to call it. So use the chat platform that you're watching this on, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. Enter those questions, and we'll try to put some on the screen for people to view. We're going to put one up here right now. This is from Eddie. It's going to cover probably a lot of your face there, but great. Love the channel, guys. I remember you did a YouTube video on hard seltzers shortly before they grew in popularity in the UK. I was wondering if your opinion has changed since that video, and you think there's a place for them on the UK scene. Who wants to go first on this one?
So it's a super interesting question. I think the difference, obviously, it swept the board over in the States. And I think the difference in the UK is that we've always had low-calorie, relatively low-flavor alcoholic drinks in the form of like gin and tonics and stuff that have always been in cans, always been available. So I think seltzers struggled to have that same immediate impact. But I still do think that it is going to happen. I think we've got sort of seltzer coming in at one angle. We've got CBD drinks coming in at another angle. And that sort of low-calorie hedonism is definitely going to be a thing, but it's going to take a lot longer than it has in the States. Right, you like hard seltzer as a concept, don't you?
I think, I mean, to be in all honesty, I've worked with some hard seltzer brands, helping them. They've not launched yet, but we're kind of working on it. So I'm a graphic designer. So I have a vested interest, shall we say, in hard seltzer to a certain extent.
I did like just going like, there's one brand coming out that's going to be.
Yeah, that's the number one brand. Don't go any other else. This is the one to go for.
That's it. But I mean, like, to be honest, I think I'm not a beer snob at all, and I just like good times, getting drunk, tasty stuff. I mean, I'm a kind of popularist sort of guy, so. I'd never hate on anything really, but to say that, I much prefer drinking craft beer to any of that stuff. To be honest, I'm interested in CBD drinks. I think they're cool, and I think they probably have a place. And anything that can spread a little bit more, joy to, well, not joy, but like can make people relax and stuff.
That's the next phase, in my opinion, for those CBD drinks that are coming over. I mean, but you're absolutely right with the hard seltzer craze in the US. It's just swept the boards. We've talked about it in the show numerous times, so I won't bore our listeners. But in terms of a point, it's interesting to see how it's perceived outside the United States, and how other countries are looking at hard seltzers. Because if you're not making hard seltzer now and you're a brewery or you're a brand, it's almost like you're not doing much to help promote your brand from that perspective. So it's a very you got to be on that speeding bullet train, or else you are left behind, it appears, from some of the stuff that we're.
A lot of UK brewers look at the American scene and what's happened with seltzer with terror, because A, they don't want to have to learn how to make good, clean fermentations and start buying in potentially not particularly natural flavorings, but B, they, what's interesting is the craft beer industry in the UK has come so far in such a short time that they're only just really getting to grips with proper QA and stuff like that. To have a whole new thing thrown at them is a major distraction. So I think probably when hard seltzer happens, it's going to be the bigger guys that really hammer it home, and the small guys will hopefully just put their fingers in their ears and pretend it's not happening.
Totally agree. Here's another question from Vladimir here. I think it's great talking about your channel as well. So how do you guys cope with the lack of travel since COVID started? How do you guys come up with interesting content for the channel? It's a great question, because Untappd Virtual Happy Hour started because of COVID, because we were going to do this in person, but ended up can't do that now with COVID. How do you guys continue to put out content with this kind of COVID situation that we're in?
Yeah, it was rough. When it first sort of happened, we had plans to make our second documentary. We were going to be going to the Czech Republic, Germany, the States again. So many trips sort of in the pipeline, and they all got cancelled. And what we did was we took a week or two off to have a think about it. And the first thing we did was we looked at my beer stash, which is about 200 bottles strong. And we just started cracking those for video. Just like finding the rarest, most exciting stuff. We had 5-year-old Westy 12s. We had I found 2 bottles of KC blending from Colorado at the back of my store and stuff like that we just started drinking and started talking about them. And then we started Zooming these amazing brewers. So I Zoomed the former head brewer of Fuller's when I drank his vintage ale. Zoomed the guy from KC when I drank that. But what we quickly learned was that homebrew was exploding in the UK, certainly. So we basically, I really missed cask ale when the pubs were closed in the UK. We couldn't drink any proper cask beer, so I decided to set up a cask ale pump on my coffee table in my house and to brew my favourite best bitter myself. So we did a series of me, learning how to not only brew good bitters, but how to look after cask ale and then how to serve it properly. And that's sort of taken us on a whole new journey into homebrew.
It's interesting to see just the kind of evolution of what people have decided to do during COVID from these situations. There's a lot of opportunity that's come out of this, but unfortunately, like you mentioned, we had all these great trips planned, and unfortunately, it is the way it is. So, thank God for the internet and virtual conferencing and all those great things that we're able to use a lot more that we haven't in the past. But it's great that you kind of tapped into the homebrewer side, from that perspective. But you touched on cask ales. It's a great question. It's popped up here from Andy and says, "Is cask beer the original craft beer?" What are your thoughts on this?
Cool. Well, we'd have to define cask beer and then craft beer. So how long?
Well, we'll be on until 3 a.m. British Standard Time, so we'll talk about that.
I think what's interesting is, I talked about how the craft beer movement is very new in the UK. That does a huge disservice to the cask brewers that have always been there. We've always had a base of around 300 to 400 breweries at its lowest ebb in the UK, many of whom were small artisan, craft breweries, just weren't making American hop styles that we associate with the word craft these days. So definitely, these small traditional cask ale brewers, people like Coniston, people back then who were very small, people like Oakham, Thornbridge when they started were 100% craft brewers. So yeah, it's just the British tilt, I think, on craft beer. Is that right, Brad?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if you could say it's the original craft beer because, I mean, you got to look at the Czech Republic and Germany and places like that as well. That's a rich European heritage that, I mean, arguably I would say they're the original craft beer. Maybe. What do you reckon, Johnny?
Well, we'd have to go to the history books. They'd be fighting over it.
You have an arm record
doing it right. I mean, really, it was the Iranians, the Sumerians, who invented craft beer. Small batch alcoholic porridge drunk through a straw out of a pewter vat that just went off one day. But yeah, I mean, so we've just recorded a video. It goes live tomorrow, all about Pilsner, in which we talk about the very long heritage of lager, particularly dark lager brewing in Bavaria, that then became pale lager brewing in the Czech Republic. They got pale malt from the UK, but they got their yeast from Bavaria, but then they invented pale lager. So it's, European, it was much more nomadic in Europe. We could travel to all these different countries and intermingle with all these different tribes and clans and civilizations. So original is a very hard word to pin on it, but definitely cask ale is craft beer, 100%.
I agree with that statement too. Also, you talked about the videos you guys are uploading for your channels. We talked a little about your channel in the very beginning, but like you mentioned, I think a few times, there are thousands and thousands of beer websites, YouTube channels. What do you think separates your content apart from the rest of the crowd if someone wants to check you guys out and wants to learn more about what you guys do?
I was about to say Brad.
Yeah. I mean, in my eyes, we're not a beer review channel. Mm-hmm. If you want to watch beer reviews, don't come and watch us.
No.
If you want to immerse yourself in the culture of places and why is beer amazing? How can it enrich your life? And traveling to places that you might not actually get to travel to and live vicariously via the internet. Or get inspired to go and find new discoveries. We're kind of hopefully the place that you might head to, because we're very fortunate and we find ourselves traveling all around the world, covering these stories, which we're just so passionate about. They need to be told. We've been to the Arctic Circle twice. We've been all up and down America. We've been all around Europe. Johnny's been to Asia a couple of times, and we're kind of just trying to root out these stories worldwide that need to be told about around beer and around the culture.
Yeah, we always put context to it. So, we tell stories about beer, always stories about beer. But actually, when we're asking the questions of people and we're trying to get this sort of documentary feel to what we do, we're asking about the context and about the people. So, yeah, we went to the Arctic Circle because we found out there was a huge homebrewing culture up there. And we spent a week exploring that. We went to, we were in Tampa Bay. We went to visit Green Bench, an incredible brewery. We didn't know that much about Green Bench. We just heard the beer was good. But when we got there, one of the founders, Chris, an incredibly talented brewer, but also, when he started getting into the history of his brewery, the history of the Green Bench in St. Petersburg, Florida, and how that was, it was a real emblem of sort of the fight back during sort of civil rights movements in the US, and telling his story about the racism that he's still educating people about through his brand and stuff like that. We start to tell stories about life because beer has been with us almost as long as civilizations have. In fact, if you speak to the right historian, he'll tell you that civilization only started because we settled because we wanted to make beer and we wanted to make bread and possibly cheese. So, beer is part of our formation of civilization. We always try to tell that kind of cultural story around it as well. The other important thing is you do get to watch two guys desperately try to be sober whilst telling these very important stories.
That is fun by itself, right there.
Yeah. I mean, so in our documentary we made last year, one of the scenes that gets talked about most is we go to a karaoke bar, absolutely off our tits. And I sing what can only be described as a heartbreaking and ear-breaking rendition of Drops of Jupiter.
Which still gives me tingles, Johnny.
Moment, at least for you and me. And so there's this definite sort of adventure stuff that, when we look at the content that we love being made, it's not the beer reviews. It's stuff like Parts Unknown, that incredible travel series, or it's Keith Floyd, who's an incredible celebrity chef from the UK in like the 70s and 80s who died of alcoholism, basically. So that's probably where we're headed to. If you look up Keith Floyd on YouTube, you can have hours of fun with him having sort of adventures and mishaps like we do.
I think we're just passionate people, and if you could put us in any situation, we're going to have a good time. You bring a beer into it. Sorry?
I said that's true of Brad, certainly. Just plonk you in any situation and you'll revel in it.
Yeah, I just think, I suffer with ups and downs in my mental health and stuff, but life is amazing, and I just feel so fortunate to be able to share, sort of, make films with one of my best friends, and I hope that comes across in what we're doing. That we're just genuinely having a great time, and I think that's kind of more important in a way, is just to sort of experience life and friendship. And I think, hopefully on the medium of YouTube, you kind of invest in people and their stories and their journey and their path. And that's kind of how I see us two and what we offer, which is different from the multitude of other beer review channels.
Yeah, our faces and our personalities are all over it, for better or for worse. I think.
Yeah.
I understand that completely. Speaking about your videos as well, is a great question that was asked as well. Is in your videos, many brewers want to, your videos, you want to sell more lagers, hells, and less IPAs and England IPAs and double IPAs. You think it will be a trend across breweries and consumers will follow those changes?
So I have spent, so I've been a writer in the world of beer since about 2014, and every single year I've predicted the year of the lager. I think this is the year. This is the year where it's going to happen for lager, and we'll start, making inroads into IPA, and people will start to appreciate the nuance, the drinkability, the history, the subtleties of it. It's never happened, and then last year I didn't write that in like the yearly roundups, and it kind of did happen. So I think I was jinxing it, for which I apologise. But there's definitely, New England IPA has had lots of incredible benefits. It's brought lots of amazing advances in technology as we try to work out how to make it as well as we can. It's brought thousands, millions of new people to the category because it's such an approachable flavor. I mean, it's basically the flavor of your childhood. Like, it's nostalgia in a glass. But it's also had some negative impacts. One of those is that it has kind of been to the detriment of other styles and other brewing. But I think what it has done, and we kind of had it with West Coast IPA. West Coast IPA's got so incredibly bitter to borderline undrinkable. And I think with New England IPAs, we've over-adjusted and we've ended up with stuff that's a little bit too juicy, a little bit too flabby. It's not particularly refreshing. And I think that's what's leading to a slight renaissance in really crisp, incredibly drinkable lagers, because I'm sure everyone in the comments here has had the situation where they've gone to a beer festival, they've had 5 or 6 New England IPAs, 2 or 3 New England double IPAs, maybe an Imperial Stout, and then they've gone, like, just, I need a lager. Who's got a lager on? And there'll be one person pouring lager, and suddenly they'll be about halfway through the session. That's what happens at English beer festivals at the very least. So I think, beer's a bit like a guitar string. Like, you pluck it, it goes one way, the other way, and slowly settles in the middle. And I think that's where we're all going to be.
I've been really myself, focusing more on pilsners and lagers personally. Don't get me wrong, New England IPAs are great beer, a great style, and I definitely enjoy it. I'm an IPA guy, but there's something about a very refreshing, clean, crisp beer that as I've gotten older, I've appreciated more than in my younger years of drinking. Something like a Kolsch, which is, you can see right through the beer, well, pretty much, and it's just crisp, clean. That's something that I think maybe people don't really appreciate too much when it comes to beer. And if I can't see through it, it must be an amazing beer. And it's like, get back to your roots and see what's out there. And so hopefully the year of the lager, let's see it. I'd love to be more focused around that OG kind of style when it comes to beer drinking.
You must have Untappd. Do you see some data that might suggest that? I mean, I guess there's probably more Pilsners being produced and being registered on Untappd. Are there more check-ins of those beers?
So that's a very good question you asked. So obviously with our 10th anniversary, we have a collaborative beer project that we're doing with Dogfish Head, and we work with them and Sam over at Dogfish Head for the style of the beer. And I said, you know what? I'm going to bet you the data tells us that Pilsner lagers are coming back and they're going to be the cream of the crop. Let's make a Pilsner lager. He said, all right, Greg, let's look at the data. Don't jump to conclusions. Let's see what the data proves us. And he said, my bet's going to be sour. And he was 100% right. And sours have been #1 trending style over the last 10 years, the most jumps from that perspective, which globally, not just the United States. Pils and lagers are coming back, but they're way slower than what we originally kind of intended and I thought was. They're definitely coming back. There's more being brewed the last 2 years than it has been the first 6 or first 8 that we've been doing this. But sours overall, that style has blown everybody away in terms of the trending more beer check-ins, more users checking into them, and more beers being produced from that side. The other crazy part of this whole thing is that we track sentiment analysis. So not just ratings and reviews, but just actual comments inside of those check-ins to see what people are saying about the style. And this is the only style that's above 70% over the course of the 3-year period that we looked at over any other style out there. Obviously, taking out IPAs and Imperial Stouts, which are very highly thought out anyways, taking those out of the equation, that's the highest one in there. So I want to believe in Pilsner and lagers, but sours appear to be the way that the industry is going into. And I think that is because it's a beer that's a crossover drink that you can get as someone that's not into beer. They can try that and get into the environment where Pilsners and lagers are still more beerish beers that have that hard kind of entry for our individual user. Mm-hmm. And I've talked too much being the host of a show, so I'll turn it over to you guys.
No. And I think you're definitely right. For the reasons for that. I think also, again, you can still put that nostalgia element in. You can still bring new people in with it by, with fruit additions, with, dare I say, intellectual property, invasive labeling and stuff like that. That attract people that aren't just there for the liquid. And hopefully they do start to be there just for the liquid, but it's a way in.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that has blown my mind just looking at the data over the last 10 years and seeing what people and consumer trends are. I mean, one of the things that we it's really awesome to see on Untappd is that wealth of data that we have that shows those trends of the industries. I mean, we're able to tell you exactly when an Oktoberfest beer is starting to get popular, the date that everything seems to blow out. We're also able to tell you when pumpkin beers start to go popular.
Is it August like everyone says, or is it later?
It's literally at the end of August, early September. It changes every year. It's like a week at the end of October or August, or into the early kind of September period that we see those trends go skyrocket. And I'm always asking, where are those pumpkins made? Like, obviously, it's not it's not October because that's in the future. So where are they coming from? But
breweries all over the US.
Exactly, right. But I think that's just a cool thing to just show from the community. I'm sure that you see that a lot with your show and talking about the people you talk to there in the community. It's like, this is the number one question, everyone. What beer should I brew? What's popular out there? How am I going to be able to kind of gain that popularity and that interest from the community? And, beer is a very communal thing, but you have to aim toward your customers, right? You're not going to make a beer that nobody wants because you can't sell it, right? You got to make your money on that end. So it's interesting to see how the conversations you have with these brewers and their mindset of like, how can I make this style stick out? What people are doing, because everyone has those New England IPAs out now. Why are there ones that are made from the Treehouse and Trilliums of the world that are just highly thought, and the other ones across the country that are not? There's no secret there. How do they do it in that aspect? And it's really interesting to see how the brewers come together to look at a style and brew it really effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, one more question here from the audience here. There's so many, and I apologize that I took over a big segment of this show here. Let's see here. Oh, here's a good one. Kurt asks, what's your favorite beer state in the U.S.? Obviously, traveling a lot, you've gotten to go to different places. What was your favorite trip or favorite area that you like to visit, or maybe one that you haven't visited yet and are looking forward to kind of visit that?
Go on, Brad, you start.
Well, I'm just gonna go in there and say the whole of the New England area was outstanding, and I'm not even talking about New England IPAs. I drank some of the best lager that I've ever drank in my life in Salem at Notch Brewery. Any of you guys in the US that can get a hold of some Notch, check it out.
The guy on Notch today is within the lager uber niche bubble on Twitter, is blowing people's minds because he's just put a video up of his 5-month lagered, open fermented, spunded oak line. It was all aged in oak line in pitch lined barrels, and it's just like more traditional than the Czechs even do it now, and everyone. But yeah, Notch are just another level when it comes to lager brewing.
Another great lager place, if you're back in Massachusetts again, is called Jack Abbey's, or in Framingham, Massachusetts. They are a lager-based brewery. I actually grew up in Framingham, so I'm going to tout it like a hometown brewery. So they are a great brewery there, all lager-centric. So that's definitely one to check out if you're back in the area again.
They didn't make our documentary. Somebody asked what it was called. It's called Looking for a New England, which is quoting who wrote it originally? It wasn't Billy Bragg. He covered it. Someone else.
I think it was Billy Bragg, not Billy Bragg.
Billy Bragg originally?
Yeah, I think so.
Looking for a New England. One for the Road is the name of the series, which was going to be a bunch of documentaries, but obviously COVID's put pay to that for now. Yeah, it didn't make the documentary, but actually Jack's Abbey, they've just come to the UK for the first time, like a month ago. So there is Jack's Abbey stuff in the UK, so I'm going to track down some and give it a go. I've drunk a little bit of it while we were in New York. But yeah,
they've definitely exploded big time across the board, which actually I think we were talking about this before in the pre-show about beer merchants and how beer merchants is selling them as well. You guys have a special pack that's coming out in the future for an Oktoberfest, which is kind of paired with your video content. You're going to want to talk a little bit about that special pack for anyone who's interested in hearing more about it?
Yeah, so we do live shows once a month, usually based around what we've been doing on the channel, like with our uploads, or something around the seasons. So we have a pretty infamous live show at Christmas now that people say it's not Christmas until they've seen me and Brad off our tits on. And next week is our Oktoberfest show. It's the first time we've done an Oktoberfest one. So we've got some Oktoberfest beer in that pack, but we've also got some rustic lager, which seems to be becoming a name of a style, which is sort of a multi-grain farmhouse style approach to brewing lager. We've got classic Hellers, classic Pilsners. We've got the Schlenkerla smoked nets in there. So we're going to be doing like a masterclass taste along in lots of different styles of European brewed lagers. and you can join us live. That's next Saturday, and you can buy a case from beer merchants, and we do that every single month. Lots of Americans tune in. We just tell them the fee, and they can source themselves some beer so that they can drink along and enjoy the show as well. Maybe one day we'll get an American distributor that can help us out. But at the moment, it's just, well, I was about to say EU wide. Sadly, not. No, just UK and EU wide.
There you go.
I think it's
I like it.
So powerful, though, hasn't it, Johnny? Over lockdown, certainly in the UK, when the pubs were shut and stuff, we kind of had a communal experience where we could all drink along together and kind of relive the glory days to the edge of the world.
Yeah, it was. The live shows were really powerful for us. We were doing one every fortnight during when the UK was properly locked down and we weren't allowed to go more than a couple of miles from our homes. The live shows kind of A, kept the channel going, but B, kept me and Brad going, kept us in contact as well.
Right.
It was when we mostly connected. So it was amazing to have a big response. And off the back of that, our Patreon support, which is how we fund the channel mostly, that really grew because people really got into that. So yeah, some real silver linings from the COVID situation for us, at least. Obviously, it's been horrific and will continue to be for many people.
Well, I mean, I appreciate you guys being on the show, Jonny and Barrett. I love the content that you guys are putting out there. I think as a member of the industry, I guess you can call Untappd a member of the industry. We appreciate people talking about beer in a different way and using your passions and your kind of drive to tell a different story. Because like you mentioned, beer is a very communal product, but at the same time, it tells a story and it has a key piece to it. Love the way you guys tell your stuff there. So I want to give you the opportunity on the floor to kind of tell everybody where they can find you on the social channels. There's a lot of comments, people asking where they can find you personally, but want to give you guys the floor to give any last second plugs you'd like.
Yeah, well, so we're on YouTube at youtube.com/craft beer channel. And we upload every Wednesday and the occasional Sunday. We've got a podcast, which you can look up, called The Bubble. It's on all the usual platforms where we interview people from outside the world of beer about beer to try and get outside that bubble. And then we have a weekly podcast where we dissect the comments on the video from that week.
The weekly podcast as well. This is actually really fun. We're always looking for people to send. We want to get people involved. So if anyone's out there, send us in a comment, record it on audio, send it to us at craftbeerboys@gmail.com. And we will air it if it's good. And if it's not,
we'll air it, we'll answer it. We'll try and get more of that. And then you can follow me on Untappd. Johnny CBC is my username.
Awesome.
I usually update it. I'm a bulk Untappd user, so I don't post for a week or two, and then suddenly I take up your feed. But
your account's been flagged for potential abuse. No, I'm just kidding.
That's probably fair. I do occasionally get. I don't know whether you still have the Untappd one, but there was like an early riser badge.
Yep, top of the morning badge. Top of the morning.
I'm doing quite well on that because I wasn't drinking that early, but I was uploading my check-ins that early.
I like it.
Eddie Emerson asked to see me in a hat, so here's me in a hat. I will not.
Not alive.
Now you need the glasses, and you'll be just like the picture we have on the show page.
There we go.
There we go. There he is. He's there.
We've got to have some fun, right?
Exactly. Well, Brad, Jonny, thank you so much for being part of the show. We appreciate it. We can't wait to check out some of your new content as well. Thanks so much for being part of us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, and cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody, for watching our virtual app beer on Tuesday. I know I had a great time. Check out the craft beer channel that we just mentioned. We'll have links all in the description of the video on YouTube and Facebook, so be able to check those out. Just want to remind you as well that we're celebrating our 10th anniversary on Untappd this month, October. We're almost there. October's Wednesday, I guess. So we can talk about how we're going to celebrate that by having a live stream on the 24th of October from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. It's going to be an amazing, fun time. And just like anything on Untappd, we'll have a special badge for that event. We want the community to design it. The winning badge will be selected soon. We'll leave 6 days left to enter in. So go to untappd.com/10/contest. Enter your badge to win, or potentially to win, to have your badge earned by millions of people around the world on our anniversary party on the 24th from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. If you have more questions, check out untappd.com/10. We really appreciate you submitting. And if you want to check out more content as well, go to untappd.tv for the schedule of all of our live shows. We do them 2 times a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. This Thursday, we're talking to Barry Holmes, the CEO of the brewery and Offshoot Beer Co. A lot of great topics to talk about that. The brewery is a great brewery out in the western part of the world, California. So we have a lot of topics there. And the following Tuesday, a week from today, we're talking to Jackie Dodd-Mallory, who is a Beardness. And we're going to be actually making a live beer cocktail on the air. I'm going to be making a live beer cocktail. This is going to be insane. It's going to go completely wrong. So you want to watch this. Good entertainment from that perspective there. So make sure to tune in to untappd.tv for all your scheduling updates. Thank you so much for watching tonight. Have a great evening. Cheers.